Well, back to tonight's top story. The world is watching with alarm as the developments at 3 nuclear reactors at the Fukushima Daiichi plant continue. As we've heard, uranium stocks have dived. So what are the early implications for the industry? Well, I'm joined now from Perth by Martin Blakeman, Managing Director of listed uranium explorer New Era Resources. Martin Blakeman, welcome to the programme.
Evening, Tiki. Thank you.
New Era's share price is off too. Have you much faith that the market will come back in the near term?
Certainly. I think there's been a strong overreaction in the markets today. I think once the Japanese utilities get control of the facilities there, that in the medium term, that there'll be a rethink in terms of uranium stocks off their lows today. And I expect them to climb steadily given a period of time.
Nearly a third of Japan's power is nuclear. How big a market is Japan for Australian uranium?
Well, traditionally, Japan's been a strong market for Australian uranium. It's only recently that there's been talk of strength in the Chinese market and the Indian markets. So traditionally, Japan's been a very strong market for Australian uranium.
I see the larger uranium miners are not commenting publicly at this stage. They're relying on their peak body. Now, the peak body says that it's confident that the nuclear energy industry in Japan and worldwide and the broader electricity generation sector will learn from and implement lessons that emerge. What are the likely lessons, do you think?
Well, I think the lessons in this case are that that the utility itself, that's in a bit of trouble at the moment, actually survived the earthquake very well. You're dealing here with a 9 on the Richter scale earthquake, and when you look at the structures of the facility, they survived very well. In fact, it was only the backup facilities that failed at the end of the day, and in terms of future reviews of this situation, I suspect it will concentrate on the backup facilities that failed.
When you say the backup facilities, presumably you mean the power to cool these reactors?
Well, the power drives the pumps that pump the fluids to cool the reactors, and so when the power fails on those backup systems, because I mean these reactors shut down automatically on some sort of catastrophic earthquake event like that, and then it's reliant on the backup facilities, and in this case the backup facilities failed.
They're using seawater, obviously. What is that going to do to the reactors themselves? I mean, are those reactors going to be write-offs effectively?
Look, I'm not an expert on what sort of effect seawater might have, but I would say that there is likely to be some effect in terms of salt in the system eventually, and certainly in terms of current situation, it will depend on how they deal with the salt water once it's been through the reactor system.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about that in news reports to date, but presumably, yes, that salt water will be contaminated and something will have to be done with it.
Well, in fact, it may not be contaminated, provided the cooling cells are isolated from the rods themselves. But normally cooling fluids are stored in ponds and reused. So I wouldn't imagine there'd be a huge problem with it.
We're hearing reports that all this may actually reduce the amount of nuclear power that's used in Japan to, say, 15 to 20% from the current 30%. Presumably this is all going to have quite an impact on the demand for uranium that Japan would have.
Well, yes, I mean, you're talking 15 to 20%, but, Australia obviously has other markets for uranium. So I think in the medium term that the effect this might have is probably in the lower order rather than in the significant order.
China and India are both very big potential markets for uranium. Do you think they are rethinking the strategy there?
Look, I think this particular event at this particular facility is really confined to a situation where you have the facility within, say, 180 kilometres of a 9-scale earthquake. It's going to be volatile in Japan, and I think it's a credit to the planning of the building of these facilities that the structures actually survive very well. I would expect that in China and India they will be taking note in terms of future planning and construction, and they'll be trying to establish these plants in stable environments.
Until now, uranium has almost been seen as a green story, a green alternative to the coal industry in particular. Surely this is going to sully its image considerably.
Look, I think in the clear light of day, when things settle down, I think we'll still be progressing towards nuclear power. I think the burning of fossil fuels is going to take a back seat in future years, and I think that the general population will see that, in general, nuclear power is a green power. It will continue to be a green power. I think the positive
and so when do you see New Era producing, and what sort of market do you see it selling into?
Well, we're basically a junior exploration company in the uranium sector, and we have an exploration target which is building up quietly. We wouldn't envisage that we would be in a position to mine uranium and market uranium for at least another 5 years.
Martin Blakeman, I thank you very much for joining Lateline Business.
Thank you, Tiki.